All right, I guess.
Shall we get started?
Yeah, welcome everyone. Roland, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome everyone to the Stanford Codex Computational Antitrust Conference. My name is Roland Vogl. I'm the Executive Director of Codex, the Stanford Center for Legal Informatics. And the center has been here at Stanford for over 15 years. Our mission is to advance the state of the art in research in computational law. And about 2 years ago, Thibault approached me and highlighted that there's a real opportunity to bring together and focus on the computational analysis of antitrust. And so we decided to create the Computational Antitrust Initiative at Codex. This initiative has really gained tremendous momentum and importance, and it's really built a community of researchers around it that are producing really important research and advancing the state of insight on computational antitrust. And so the initiative itself, this conference, which is in its second year, the team that is working to create this conference and manage this initiative, the publications that are coming out from it are really a testimony to Thibault's vision and his grit and ability to make things happen. He's also recruited a tremendous team, including Teodora. And so, so we're really fortunate to have this team and this effort under Codex. We're looking forward at 3 half days of exciting conversations around cutting edge issues in computational antitrust. And really excited to have you all join us for this. And with that brief intro, I'll just turn it over to Thibault.
Thanks very much. I actually realized that I couldn't be better surrounded because you two are the reason why this project and this conference exists. So thank you so very much for entrusting me with, the freedom to try to create something and see how the world will react. And Teodora, for everything you've been doing, it's fantastic. So thanks very much. I want to tell you about first of all, a bit of what's coming in the next few days. And I couldn't help myself also but to introduce or reintroduce computational antitrust. We do have half an hour, a little bit less now, 25 minutes, that I will share with Teodora. We also want to tell you about the annual reports. Without further ado, welcome. I'm very pleased to see you all. And to recognize quite a few names from last year, always a good sign. It's the second annual conference for the Computational Antitrust Project. My name is Thibault Schrepel. I am an associate professor of law at the VU Amsterdam and a faculty affiliate at Stanford University Codex Center. Codex, as Roland just explained, is a unique center in between the law school, Stanford Law School, and the Department of Computer Science. The Computational Antitrust Project, as Roland also just mentioned, is hosted by Codex. Among other fascinating projects, all of that is accessible on the Codex website. You can have a look at the Codex Tech Index or the Computational Contracts Initiative and many more. So I really invite you to have a look and dive into it. Last year, we organized a 3-day conference entitled Computational Antitrust, Introducing Antitrust 3.0. This year, we move a step forward with a conference entitled Computational Antitrust Implementing Antitrust 3.0. Now, let me tell you that moving from introducing the field to implementing computational antitrust solutions was very natural to us. And when we all gathered and decided on the theme for this conference, it was an easy choice. The Computational Antitrust Project, and we are very grateful for that, has been quoted in the New York Times quite a few times, cited by academics. It has been the subject of many talks and panels throughout the year. new courses, etc. So we hope that there is no need for us to introduce the space, although if you are not with us last year, I can't resist the temptation but to do it this year again in just 5 minutes. But for the most part, this year will be dedicated to applied computational antitrust solutions. You will hear about cutting-edge research in the space. You will be shown how to create your own computational antitrust solutions, even without computer science expertise. You will discuss doctrinal challenges, see which agencies are moving ahead, etc. Now, as the baseball player Yogi Berra once said, you can observe a lot by watching. Now, we have fantastic speakers for you to watch, but please also interact with them. You can use the Q&A function for the purpose. We will try our best to answer all the questions you may have. The only disclaimer might be that if you ask what is the meaning of life, we are still working on this one. But for the rest, we promise we will try our best to answer your computational antitrust questions. You can also tweet about the conference using the hashtag Computational Antitrust. I'm not sure if you do have hashtag on Mastodon, but if so, please go ahead. And don't forget that all of our publications, podcast episodes are available on our website in open source. If you enter computationalantitrust.com, you will be redirected to Codex website where everything is there waiting for you. All right, I think now is the time to move on to our first subject. As I already told you, Teodora and I wanted to tell you about our annual report, which gathered 14 antitrust agencies. But before, let me give you some context. So what I want to do in just 5 to 7 minutes is to go through the first two squares. What is computational antitrust? And what is our project, or more specifically, what did we do in the last 365 days? So let's dive into computational antitrust in just 5 minutes. Again, everything that we'll be discussing and presenting to you is available on our website. If I was to introduce computational antitrust, I will actually start there. Now, this is something new to me. I was actually in a hotel in London last week, stuck with my thought and a book that appears on the screen right now. And I think this might be the very first time someone ever mentioned the idea of computational antitrust. What this former MIT professor suggested, as you can see, is to suggest an experiment where you will add computational power to try to understand, I quote, our methods of limiting trust and cartels as revealed in the Sherman Act. Now, he's making a point that this should be one of the simple things that you can do with computers. As we'll discuss, it's not that easy, but it might be the very first time computational antitrust was ever mentioned. Now, if we move to today's world, I think there are at least 3 different reasons why we need computational antitrust. Some of them might be familiar to you, again, if you were with us last year, but if not, here it is. First, the detection part. We know from empirical studies that we detect very few of the infringements to antitrust law. That is true for cartels, and we have reasons to suspect that it might be even more true for monopolization or abuses of dominance. So that's already a problem, but that's not even accounting what's coming next, what's coming our way tomorrow. 2 years ago, we produced 44 zettabytes of data. That's a lot. In 3 years from now, we will produce, according to the World Economic Forum, 175 zettabytes of data and over 2,000 zettabytes of data, which is to say that it's going to become incredibly hard for agencies to become proactive, right, and to find evidence themselves. Now, the problem is that agencies tend to rely on what we call reactive methods, which is to say companies complaining to agencies. And we see here, according to the OECD, that the European Commission relies on reactive methods for 80% of all of its cartel cases, and it amounts to 90% in the United States. So what we have is a situation where it's becoming hard for agencies to be proactive. They tend to rely on reactive methods, but chances are that technology will put companies in a situation to complain less to those agencies by making better infringements, in a sense, if it means anything. So that's reason number one. We need to improve our detection capacity. Reason number two, the analysis. And this one is both quantitative and qualitative as well. When you look at the quantities of the data, as I just explained to you, it's gonna raise quite a lot. But already, if we look at the Google shopping case, let's say before the European Commission, the EC had to analyze 1.7 billion search queries. The CMA, the UK competition agency, had access to Google and Bing search queries for just 1 week. They ended up with in between 3 and 4 billion entry points to analyze. That is for the quantity, but even for the quality of what we do, we tend to be stuck with static analysis in computation, in antitrust law. We look at pictures, but we barely understand the movies of markets. And so why not trying to design better tools to better understand the unfolding of markets? That's reason number two. Reason number three, enforcement. We published a paper last year where the scholars and former officials explained that when Microsoft was ordered by a US federal court to generate documentation to enable interoperability of their products with their competitors, they first had 2 employees working on generating the doc and ended up with 900 employees working on generating the doc because the subject was more complicated than anticipated. And of course, the same problem occurred for the DOJ, right? How do you keep up with the companies with 900 employees? Can you verify everything? And so on and so forth. So that's a problem when it comes to designing remedies. Another problem might be to better understand whether or not companies are complying. And to give you just one example, the European Commission is now actively hiring technical experts to enforce the Digital Markets Act, right? Because even though it's ex ante, it's not self-sufficient. And some companies, whether they want to do it or not, will infringe the law, and you need to be able to detect that so that you can enforce competition law. So that leads us to antitrust plus computational law, which you could define as the use of computer-based problem-solving methods. That leads us to computational antitrust. Now, once you've said that, and here is a definition for the lawyers in the room, we were trained to enjoy definition very much. So here's one if you need one. Once you've said that, the question becomes which tools and which solutions and which challenges are we facing and should we design? I've listed a few. Some of them will be discussed in this year conference, NLP, topic modeling, the use of smart contract. Those are potential solutions, but again, you need to implement them and make sure they work as we expect they should work and try to tackle all the challenges. So all of that put us in a very interesting position. The field is exciting, but we are facing many challenges. Some of them, I'm sure, are familiar to all of you if you read just a tiny bit of what's happening in the space of AI and the law. We, at the very least, have all of those problems to tackle, plus the one of antitrust law. So what I've done is that you may have seen that last week, a company, OpenAI, released a new version of its LLM. And I asked the question to that AI system, what is computational antitrust? The answer is actually quite good. But then my question was, will computational antitrust succeed? And the AI system is answering. To me, it's difficult to say, so I insisted actually because I wanted the system to tell me, yes, it's possible. So I asked a further question. Are there good reasons to be optimistic? And the system finally said that, yes, there are certainly good reasons to be optimistic about the potential of computational antitrust. So if you are not taking my words for granted, you can actually trust that AI system. Joke aside, this is also the kind of subject we will discuss in this year conference. If you come up with evidence submitted by an AI system, is it relevant before the courts? Is it the kind of proof that we can admit before the courts? And even so, is it the kind of proof and outcome that a judge is likely to take into account or not? So all the things to be discussed. Now, let me just take 2 minutes to go through what we've been doing this year. First of all, it's important to remind that we are 100% independent when it comes to the funding, right? So we are not receiving money from the industry, nor from the antitrust agency. So we try our best to overcome our own biases and to provide you with the best we can. We publish one article every month. We publish one podcast episode every month. There are 65 competition agencies that are part of the project and 35 academics in the advisory board. If you listen to our podcast, you've heard me saying that sentence very often. You could go to, again, Computational Antitrust and have a look at all of the people. Most of them will be actually intervening in this year conference. This is a list of all the competition agencies. We gather agencies from the United States, Europe, Africa, Latin America, Asia, and other parts of the world. Now, this year we published several papers that will be presented in this year conference. The first one is, and actually the panel is today, a paper about algorithmic governance. So should you be an antitrust agency and want to use AI? How should you do so? And how can we make sure that the use of AI is fair to companies? A subject that we will discuss. Paper number 2, and this one was actually discussed last year, is the one of the legitimacy of digital market surveillance, right? But because Catalina is part of the advisory board, she will be joining us to further discuss the subject this year again. Third paper to be discussed in this year conference, authored by Oliver Budinsky and Victoria Noskova. They analyzed merger simulations, actually did a very good job, I think, at summarizing the state of the art and to try to predict how we can simulate the effect of merger using machine learning. Also something to be discussed in this year conference. Another one dear to me because it tackles blockchain and complexity theory or complexity science will be discussed this year, and here tries to tackle how we can anticipate anti-competitive behaviors within blockchain ecosystem. You may have heard of the FTX Binance meltdown. This might be relevant to our subject, and we will try indeed to see if we can use agent-based modeling to better anticipate what's coming our way. Almost last, a paper by Joe Harrington from Penn on the use of machine learning to improve cartel screening, co-authored by with David Himoff from the Swiss Competition Agency. And the last paper we will discuss is the one by Xing Tao on the use of NLP to understand trends in competition law, antitrust law. And we will ask ourselves the question if we can predict where or if neo-Brandesian will succeed in a few weeks or months. What I shall say, and then I give the floor to you, Teodora, is that we have decided for this year conference to vary formats. So you will see many different formats. This is just part of what we have for you, but also 3 keynote speeches, a session for students and researchers, and more surprises coming your way. But I'm done, and Teodora, the floor is yours. I will just disappear, but feel free to use my screen indeed.
Thank you very much, Thibault, for sharing your screen with me. Thank you for the kind introduction. I just want to start by saying that it's really a pleasure to be part of this project, to work with Thibault, but also with all our collaborators from agencies to authors. And most of all, it really makes me very happy to see how much we have grown from last year. As Thibault said, last year we wanted to sort of put on the map what we are doing to convince agencies and researchers to join us. This year we have concrete results to show, and that's an immense progress. And I think that we are really living up to the promise of changing the future of antitrust. And we are very happy to have you join us on this journey. And now to show you how, let's have a look at our annual report, which was published this summer. I'll tell you briefly the story of the report. So basically in 2021, our main job was to convince agencies to join us to build a network. But then last year, because we already gathered quite a big network, we decided in the first months of 2022 to ask the agencies in our network to share their progress in implementing computational tools to see how far they have gotten in 1 year. And then we gathered their contribution in a report, which we made public. And I'm very happy to tell you in the following minutes what makes this report special. Thibault, can you please move? Yes, thank you. So to begin with, the report is really the first of its kind. It's the first time when antitrust agencies have accepted to share with the broader public their progress with implementing computational tools and to give us a sneak peek into what they do. And then one of the key insights of the report is to show how the adoption of computational tools is not an isolated phenomenon happening only in the global north, but very much a global phenomenon. And the report has contributions from agencies from Argentina to the UK, showing how the field is actually open towards jurisdictions from Latin America to Eastern Europe. And it also shows how the field is gradually evolving and spreading out, and it's becoming truly global. And now to look a bit at the content of the report, the contributions are very, very granular. They contained detailed descriptions of the state of play. They explain what kind of softwares are being used, how they were built, what their functions are, and also the concrete benefits they bring to the day-to-day enforcement of antitrust. And then some agencies were actually very candid and open, and they even explained to us what challenges they face with implementing these tools, and also how they're trying to overcome them. And we need to understand that given how novel the field is, many agencies still lack the human resources they need to develop computational tools. But we truly hope that the report and the conference and the work we do at Codex in general will perhaps motivate some computer scientists, maybe some of them joining us today, to join the exciting world of antitrust enforcement. And then lastly, some agencies have even shared with us their projects for the near future. And we were very happy to see that most of these projects are actually overlapping, and we hope that in the future we can foster some cooperation between the agencies to turn these projects into more collaborative ones. And then just to end, what makes the report special is that it's useful not only to the agencies, but also to academics and practitioners. For the agencies, the report is a learning opportunity. They can assess how far they have gotten, what their progress is compared to their peers, and also to understand where they could pool resources to advance computational tools together. For academics like me and Thibault, the report gives us a unique chance to adapt our work to the needs of the agencies. We can learn where further research is necessary. And in this sense, the report plays a key role of being a bridge between academia and enforcement, and it enables a constructive dialogue between the two worlds, which are often unfortunately separated. And then lastly, for the industry and the law firms, the report is really a very rare chance to get a sneak peek at what the agencies are doing, where their priorities lay, and perhaps why not to motivate them to build their own antitrust compliance tools. And now, after seeing what makes the report special, let's look inside to see what trends can be observed. So first, most of the agencies have now switched to having entirely electronic records for all their documents. And some of them have even integrated these records across with other government registries, such as those of the tax authorities. And we can only imagine how much having electronic databases has simplified the daily work of case handlers who no longer have to browse through file cabinets to find documents they need. And this is really a key step. Some of the agencies have even gone further and implemented algorithms on top of these databases to identify clusters of similar documents which are relevant for investigations. And given how sizable the average antitrust case file is, this tool is really a game changer in terms of simplifying how case handlers can access documents and navigate them. Second, we also see that agencies are starting to use computational tools in the context of investigations per se. A growing number of agencies are using data mining and screening techniques to detect signs of bid rigging. And even more than that, something which is very surprising, a competition agency has already started to pursue an investigation drawing entirely on data collected through data mining techniques. And I'm sure that in the years to come, we will see more and more of these investigations which were enabled entirely through the use of computational tools. And third, and this is something that I am particularly interested in, we see that agencies are implementing softwares which help them analyze relationships between companies in order to assess how ownership structures increase or decrease risks of collusion. And this is really groundbreaking because a growing strand of antitrust scholarship is investigating how ownership patterns might impact firms' incentives to compete or to collude. And it's really exciting to see how agencies are doing such groundbreaking work at the intersection of corporate governance and antitrust. It's really fantastic to see such a push for interdisciplinarity coming precisely from the enforcement scene. And with that, I hope that we have convinced all computational antitrust skeptics that computational antitrust is a reality and that the future of antitrust enforcement is digital. And on that note, I'll hand it over back to Thibault to introduce our next speaker. Thank you.